Hello my Funatics and welcome to week 8 of the GBA. In an attempt to get everything kind of up to date, I'm going to do my team builder and match together this time because I need to catch up and I need to be on time for everything. And I've had a bit of time this weekend to do that. So currently still not very good record of 1-6, and I say not very good, that's pretty terrible. But we're still attempting to change that. We've got Pyro on our team now. It did some work last week. Hopefully it can carry on doing some work. But this week we're going up against Monotooi, a really great guy, and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Please go and check out his channel. He is a great battler, and he's had to come in and take over for someone else's draft, so it wasn't even his draft initially, and he's had some really great battles with it. Very good battler, and I was very nervous going into this week. So I'm going to show you his team and what I did. So basically, if you want to watch the battle, you can go forward to the time point. I'll probably leave it in the description or something, so that you can skip over the team builder if you're not interested. But we'll go through that now so that you have a bit of an idea of what I'm bringing and why. Looking at Mono's team, he's got a really good team. Like, to be fair to Gubs, who drafted it initially, a good friend of mine who doesn't do Pokemon anymore, which is really sad. But yeah, it's a really solid team, and it's actually quite hard to prep for because of good synergy. I'll go into that in a sec. But yeah, stuff like Chomp is very scary. Azumarill is always terrifying because you're always very scared of being swept by Belly Drum. But you also have to prep for AV and Band, and they require very different things. So that could be tough. And Mega Mane as well, just being really fast, outspeeding my Crobat, which is my fastest thing, which is really sad. Yeah, so it's a really tough team, and then he's got a lot of bulk as well, so it's hard. Again, another one that's kind of hard to prep for because you don't know if you're going to have to prep for bulk or prep for offense. So I tried to cover up my bases. The first thing that I decided to bring was Krookodile. It does pretty well against Mono's team. It hits most things for good damage. I have got Stone Edge on this set just because Mandibuzz would be the obvious thing to bring for a Krookodile, and Stone Edge hits that very hard, so that's good. Although if it's defensive, it's still doing under half, so maybe a 2-hit KO after Rocks, depending on the set. Yeah, I've got Rocks on here. This is my rocker, and I went with Soft Sand. I had been debating a number of items. Intimidate is just useful for coming in and intimidating certain things. If it's a Choice Banded Azumarill, or maybe just getting an Intimidate on that will allow another Mon to live or something like that. Or it's Aqua Jet just to do less damage. But yeah, I wouldn't be sweeping with this thing, so Moxie is not necessary this week. I toyed with a few items. I was thinking maybe the Bug Berry, is it Kebia Berry? No, Tangerberry. For this, because if he brings Mega Manectric, the most obvious coverage move that you'd have for this, I'd say, would be Signal Beam, because it also hits a couple of other things pretty hard. Like it hits Mew harder than a Thunderbolt would, and it's decent coverage really. And then he could just run like Hidden Power Dragon or something like that to hit both Dragonite and well, the things that resist are Crook is immune, and then I've got my Kyurem and my Virizion. So Fire type would cover for Virizion. He'd have to go like a Hidden Power to try and catch my Kyurem for super effective damage, and then Krookodile, it could be Signal Beam. So I don't know, but it could be HP Ice. So I was considering Tangerberry, but I went with Soft Sand in the end because Tangerberry was a bit too situational. The next Pokemon, and I'm just going max speed. I went with this speed because Porygon Z is a scary Pokemon, and I want something to be able to outspeed a timid Spec Set or something like that, because I actually haven't EV'd everything to be able to do that does naturally have a higher base speed stat. For example, this thing outspeeds a modest one, but it doesn't outspeed a timid Spec PZ or something like that. But yeah, I decided to bring Kyurem because it is a pretty great wall breaker here. The only thing that it doesn't particularly like is Azumarill, which is why I gave it HP Grass. It's really the only thing that would do any damage to maybe an AV variant or just a very bulky variant. Gave it an Expert Belt because I've learnt my lessons. Like, if you give this thing a Life Orb, it dies way too quickly. It can get statused, or it can get it takes a lot of damage from hazards as well, so it just dies a bit too quickly if you give it a Life Orb. So I thought Expert Belt was the next best thing. A lot of his team is weak to Ice Beam, And the things that can take an Ice Beam, like Bronzong, I'm covering for with Shadow Ball, which should do a lot of damage. Bronzong is probably going to be the check to Kyurem because it does resist both stabs and Earth Power, which is its normal coverage. But Shadow Ball does actually still hit it really hard. HP Grass for Azumarill, as I said, and then Draco just there because it takes away some of the choice in terms of, I have to predict anything. But it also hits other stuff like Emboar, which I don't hit very hard without it, and also maybe Piloswine, although I'm really not necessarily expecting Piloswine because he's got so many other threats, so many wall breakers to choose, and other things like that. So yeah, Kyurem is here. Next thing is going to be Mew. I'm hoping that Mew is going to do something one day. I can't believe all this time, and I don't think it's that I've been bringing ineffective Mew sets. It's probably just the team synergy, or maybe it's just that I'm not very good at using a Mew. But this is another powerful thing. It's an expert belt Mew because Mew can have really good coverage, basically Psychic and Ice coverage. It does really well, and then I've just got a Shadow Ball there for Bronzong as well. And I've got Rock Polish because I wanted ways to maybe sweep late game or at least outspeed Mega Manectric late game. So that's what I've gone for there. And yeah, that's basically why I chose to use this Mew. Rock Polish could definitely come in clutch, and if I don't reveal it, it may well be a surprise factor that could close off the game. But it's a pretty good coverage there. And Psyshock I went for to hit on the physical side because AV users are a potential thing. Like AV Amoonguss could be a thing because it gets Regenerator. AV Azumarill could be a thing, so I thought Psyshock would be the better option. I kind of am forced to bring Suicune because I need to switch it up for Emboar, and also it deals with Chomp okay, Garchomp, but not really amazingly, especially if it's like a random Specs Chomp or something like that. Chomp does make sense to come because it outspeeds both my dragons and can threaten them, and it's just a very bulky and good one in general. I went with this moveset because it means that I outspeed a max speed Jolly Azumarill, and I've got Scold because Scold is just good and I need it. I need it to threaten Emboar and stuff and maybe get some burns on an Amoonguss, something like that. And then I've got HP Grass just so that I have something to do a little bit more damage to Azumarill, and so I don't have to rely on getting Scold burns while it sets up or does horrible things in my face. Not necessarily the best thing. I could have put Ice Beam on there because it hits Amoonguss a bit harder, but it doesn't really hit it very hard at all, so it's a bit of a waste. But it does hit Garchomp a bit harder, so that's something, because Garchomp can probably be EV'd to have a sub that lives a Scold. I'm not sure, I didn't actually count that, I really should have done. But yeah, so that's the thing. I outspeed Azumarill though, so I can get an extra Hidden Power Grass or something like that. And Whack on Berry just so that I can take a Wild Charge from Emboar or an electric type move from Mega Manectric. So that's the Suicune. Rest Talk to keep it around. Next Pokemon, Choice Scarf Dragonite. This was suggested to me by a friend, Shardy. You probably know him. He was in the PPL with me and did very well. Yeah, came third. I came second. Anyway, yeah, really interesting set because I was considering I wanted a Scarfer, and I was finding it hard to know where to fit it on, and I was thinking Scarf Pyroar would be quite good just because I wanted something to be able to outspeed and threaten Manectric. That's what I needed. And I was thinking Pyroar could do that quite well, and nothing resists normal type on his team apart from Bronzong, so I thought it might be quite good as a late game sweeper. But I was actually convinced to use Dragonite instead because it's got really nice coverage with what you can see here. Earthquake does Oko Manectric, or it can Oko Manectric without the Intimidate, so that's very good. Thunder Punch does good damage to Azumarill as well as a reliable way to hit Mandibuzz, not for very much damage but for some damage at least. Fire Punch is there for Bronzong, which is the kind of obvious switch in to Dragonite, so I can catch that. And then finally Outrage, because once Azumarill has gone, it's just Scarf Outrage could be really good, so I went with Outrage in the end. The unfortunate thing about this is that Dragonite is so slow that I do actually have to run Jolly to be able to outspeed Mega Manectric, so I can't run Adamant, so I do lose out on a bit of power there. But the other thing that's really nice is it gives me another thing that can take a +6 Aqua Jet from an Azumarill. So between this and this and this, I should be able to take on a Belly Drum Azumarill, because this will be able to outspeed and get an HP Grass off. This is able to take a +6 Aqua Jet and get a Hidden Power Grass off, and this is able to take a +6 Aqua Jet and get a Thunder Punch off, even if my multi-scale is broken. So that's good. So I thought that would be useful, and you can see now that already that I'm going very offensive. Like I've so far I've got 4 offensive ones and 1 defensive, and that doesn't really stop because I've got an adamant Crobat, so it's not particularly bulky at all. It does outspeed his Garchomp, but that's all. And it's there to be able to switch in on a Moongus with the safety goggles. I'm really sorry, guys. I was considering Nasty Bat. It's got a decent matchup in this match, and firing off like Sludge Bombs would be really good. The problem is, again, I'd be relying on Life Orb to have any initial damage, and that would mean that Crobat will potentially get whittled really quickly if rocks are up. So this set is a little bit safer. It means that I can go Brave Bird for very powerful initial damage, and Cross Poison just for an immediate answer to an Azumarill, maybe a Banded Azumarill, because I don't actually deal with Banded Azumarill very well. I'm more prepared for Belly Drum, but that's just because it's more scary. But I like it does good damage. And then Super Fang, I think, is my best option for obvious switches like Bronzong, or maybe Mandibuzz, just getting some big powerful Super Fangs. I had considered Taunt there as well. And then I was, the one last thing that I was considering was Mega Bayonet for a Destiny Bond kind of contingency plan for an Azumarill, because Azumarill I think is the scariest thing for my team. I don't really have anything to take it on well. I've not really got any switch-ins, so that is definitely the scariest thing for my team. But yeah, that's the team that I'm bringing. I decided that I just needed to go offense against this team. If he brings offense, then I'm hoping that I have enough bulk, bulky attackers and things to do that, and also the surprise factor of the Scarf Dragonite might be able to pull me through, as well as having really bulky Suicune. But I do think I need to play Suicune quite offensively, depending on what he brings. If he brings Emboar, it needs to stay around for Emboar, but if Emboar is not around, I probably just need to play it quite offensively. Stuff that I'm scared of, definitely Garchomp with like a subset or something like that could be hard to take down, although I do have Infiltrator Crobat, so it depends on how much health he has. I'm guessing that sub is probably not going to be too common. Manectric is potentially going to be a problem. I do have an immunity, and I do have my Kyurem that can take hits okay, and I also did end up bringing a Scarfer, so I can revenge it, which is nice, but it could be hard to take down. And other than that, just a lot of bulk that I might struggle with, but I think I do have enough offense. But I need to play Kyurem. I need to play Kyurem well so that I can get hits off and dent things that I need to dent. Anyway, we'll get into the battle so that you can see what happened. So we're on Showdown this week because Monotooi is lucky enough to be at Pokemon Nationals, having a great time, but he was able to afford enough time to have this battle with me, which I really appreciate. So yeah, I hope you guys are okay with that. Looking at the team that he brought, it's kind of different to what I expected. The Mandibuzz there, really a good pick, because it stopped a lot of my setup mons. That was one of the things one of the reasons why I didn't bring Nasty back, because the Mandibuzz could just easily live a hit and whirlwind it out potentially, and also like a Dragon Dance Dragonite would have just been whirlwinded, and it stops my Crook really quite nicely, and it can whirlwind Calm Mind Suicune, or maybe even Taunt it. So I thought that was a really good pick to bring. Also Bronzong there, again stopping my dragons relatively well, although actually Shadow Ball from an E-Belt Kyurem should do a good amount. And then Azumarill definitely coming. It was just such a great pick against my team. It has a field day, probably the best thing on his roster to deal with my team, so that definitely was coming. And Manectric as well, just the speed, being able to outspeed everything on my team that isn't Scarfed. So a great pick. The things that I were a bit out of left field were Excelgor. I had thought it might come because it does actually do a lot of damage to my team, and seeing it come was a little bit scary because I didn't necessarily prep for it. I thought that it might come, but I didn't really prep for it super hard. And yeah, so it can maybe stack some spikes, which would be really unfortunate. It can carry all sorts of horrible things like Final Gambit or Endeavour, and also Encore is something I need to watch out for. But more than that, just its stab is very good against my team. It does huge damage to Mew and Krookodile, and then it can carry maybe a hidden power coverage for certain things, focus blast for Kyurem, grass type move for Suicune, so I need to watch out for it. It could actually do a lot of work. And Piloswine is kind of fat. I didn't really think it would come. It doesn't have an amazing matchup against my team. I wasn't too worried because I'd rather see that than Garchomp really. Suicune deals with Piloswine a lot better, and yeah, I feel like I could deal with it a little bit better than if I'd seen a Garchomp there, so I was quite happy about that. So yeah, looking at the team, I was thinking likely lead is probably Excelgor, but I might see a Stealth Rocker in Bronzong or Piloswine lead. Not sure. I'm going to lead with my Kyurem. I think it is my best lead in this situation, because if it's a Final Gambit, a Selgor, it's not got, even maxed invested, it's not got nearly enough health to take out my Kyurem. And Kyurem can take like a Specs Focus Blast or anything just because it is so bulky, even though I haven't really invested much in its bulk, which is really nice. So that's what I'm going to lead with, as we do actually see the Excelgor being Monotooi's lead. So that's great. I'm going to fire off an Ice Beam. Don't want to miss a Draco, don't really want to drop my special attack either. Ice Beam is just a good way of taking it down. As Piloswine actually comes in, which is alright for me. Maybe rocks are going up, which would be a little bit unfortunate. But if I can get some HP grass damage on, that would be great. E-Belt means that it's going to be doing a lot of damage, and I didn't want a Draco again because I don't want to drop my special attack at this stage. Now I'm thinking he probably wants to preserve his Piloswine. The Ice Shard could be useful later on, or maybe it's got rocks, I'm not really sure. I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball, predicting his Bronzong, because Mandibuzz isn't taking an Ice Beam. And that's actually exactly what happens, which is so good for me because I get a juicy 69% right there. Bronzong really not going to be able to take on this Kyurem anymore. I'm going to go for another Shadow Ball because Bronzong, I was thinking, doesn't really do anything now. It will die to pretty much anything on my team, apart from Crobat. Maybe that's why he kept it around. But actually, yeah, he switches into Mandibuzz, takes that hit relatively well, but I do get the Spadef drop. Looking at the damage, I'm thinking that maybe a Draco will take it out from there. I'm going for Draco just because he could switch out, and we do see he switches out again into the Piloswine, but unfortunately I do miss the Draco Meteor. He obviously was wanting that thick fat hit and me taking a bit of extra toxic damage. I do take the extra toxic damage just because I miss. A bit unfortunate, but not really awful, because as I say, I've got a Suicune that's an easy switch in. He actually goes for an Ice Shard. I was again predicting maybe rocks or maybe an Earthquake, but the Ice Shard damage would have put me in toxic range for that turn, so that makes sense as well. He was just sacking his Piloswine at that stage, but Suicune can take that out with taking minimal damage. I do have the Wakam Berry as the main Nectric comes in. I had considered Miracoat at one time, but then I realised that Mandibuzz is completely immune to Miracoat. So yeah, I don't think that was worth bringing in. I'm just going to go for a Scald here. I didn't really want anything else to take that hit. Suicune's fine to take that hit, really, as the things that it was brought for, Emboar and Garchomp, didn't even come, and Piloswine's already gone down, so I'm okay with it taking some damage there. Mandibuzz comes in and unfortunately doesn't get burned, but I'm thinking Mandibuzz can't really do too much to my Suicune anyway. With my speed investment, I do outspeed, and I'm able to get a burn on it, which is great, and it's under half, so it's really whittled. The combination of Kyurem and that now means that all of his walls have been chipped really, really effectively, and I've got plenty of mons to capitalise on that. Azumarill comes in, maybe thinking that my Suicune can't do anything immediately other than maybe try to get Scald burns, but I'm not going to play around with that. I just want damage on this Azumarill. I should be able to get 2 hidden powers on it if it's a belly drum set, which would take it down very far for it easily to be revenged. But we see actually it's a power-up punch set. Not AV, I don't think, because I don't think hidden power will be doing so much damage. He takes me down relatively low, but right now I'm just going to show the rest and hope that I get some nice Sleep Talks, because otherwise my Suicune would have gone down and it would have still been alive. With Sleep Talk, at least I have a chance to maybe burn or maybe get enough hidden powers to take it out, but I'd have to be really lucky. I do get the first hidden power, but I need to get the second one to be able to take it out and keep my Suicune around. Interestingly, he didn't go for the Play Rough immediately. That would have actually taken me out, but I'm able to survive. And I do get another Sleep Talk off, and it turns out that I do get a hidden power, so I get really lucky there. Not super duper important because I have plenty of things that would have been able to revenge and take it that Aqua Jet. Even my Kyurem at the health it was at would have been able to take the Aqua Jet, so I wasn't too concerned. I'm switching out here because I'm scared about the Encore, and this thing could have maybe Sub or something like that, and I didn't really want to be at its mercy. I switched into Crobat though, and that's a bad play because as you see here, it's Life Orbed, and Hidden Power does way too much damage, and Crobat was something that could take a hit from that, and now I'm running out of things that can take any hits. So I'm going to switch back into my Soggy Doggy. You see the Hidden Power's resisted there, so it's probably HP Ice, which is a bit worrying. This Excelgor could potentially outspeed Scarf Dragonite, but it's unlikely because he's probably not EV'd for a Scarf Dragonite, a jolly Scarf Dragonite. I'm going to go for a Fire Punch here, thinking that maybe a Bronzong would come in. He might have just wanted to break my multi-scale there, but he didn't. He actually went into Mandibuzz, which can take the hits right now. Not cool. I'm going to switch, thinking that he might want to Roost and go into my Kyurem, but actually the Mandibuzz just goes for a foul play, wanting to break my multi-scale there, I think. Kyurem's able to survive the foul play and the toxic damage. I'm going to fire off an Ice Beam here. I potentially could have gone for a Draco Meteor there. That probably would have been a better play, just in case he switched into Bronzong. I could do a bit more damage. No, but Ice Beam would have been fine. Ice Beam was probably the play there, because if he went into Bronzong, I can always follow up with a Shadow Ball. Yeah, so Manectric is going to come in. I'm going to let my Cold Turkey go down as we see the Flamethrower come out. So I'm not exactly sure what coverage it has, but I am going to go into my Krookodile. I know that I can take any one hit from this, even if it's got the Signal Beam. I can take one. And I'm just going to go for a knockoff. In the back of my mind, I was thinking Manectric could have Magnet Rise, in which case, if it goes for that, I still 2-hit KO with knockoff. But really, I just want damage on it to make it much easier to take down, maybe with Mew later on, or anything really. Bronzong is sacked, that's great, but that means that Excelgor can come in and just take out my Krookodile with a Bug Buzz. There was no way that I was risking a switch out there. I am going to go back into my Dragonite, and I don't want to lock myself into Outrage just yet, because it won't KO the Manectric. It would 2-hit KO, but it won't KO the Manectric from there. And the issue with that is he could potentially, once I take out the Manectric at -1, I will be confused, and Excelgor could maybe come in and sub and actually win the game from there, which would have been awful. So I felt it was much safer to go for Fire Punch, just get a bit of damage, then sack my Crobat. He does have Hidden Power on this as well, which looks like Ice, so lots of Hidden Power Ice coverage. But my Dragonite's going to come in now, and I do outspeed this, so I can go for an Outrage, either kill this or kill the Excelgor switch in, and I would be able to take on Manectric with my Mew at the end as well. So I had sealed it up basically at the end there with my Dragonite. It still had his multi-scale as well, so it would have been able to take any one hit. My best play would have been to switch into Mew probably if this thing got confused and win from there. But yeah, really, really great. Scarf Dragonite, oh my lord. It really pulled through. And also Kyurem at the beginning of the game, just really punching those holes in the defensive core. Piloswine going down really early, Bronzong being irreparably damaged, and yeah, just shifting things around. So that early momentum I was able to keep up, play my Suicune quite aggressively because I didn't have to preserve it for Emboar, and that was definitely what I had to do. The HP Grass on there was exactly what I needed because it meant that Azumarill wasn't able to get free setup or anything like that, and while I was fishing for burns that might not ever happen. You know what, thinking about it now, I hadn't considered this. Azumarill was probably Lumberry, which is why he would switch it in. So having the HP Grass was really great because it just meant that I had an immediate damage on it, and that meant that even if I hadn't got this Sleep Talks, I would have been able to revenge it very easily with probably Kyurem, because the HP Grass with the E-Belt would have easily taken it out from half. So yeah, that was really interesting actually. Very interesting match. I knew that I had to play aggressively, and that's what ended up happening. So really happy, and it makes my current record a little bit more respectable. 2-6 isn't too bad. It's still pretty bad, but with this draft, I just haven't. I don't know. I'm getting to grips with it now, but I just don't think that it does work together very well. Stuff like Mega Bayonet and Klefki were both not brilliant choices. For a Mega Slot, Mega Bayonet is not a great choice, and for a Steel and for a Fairy, both very important typings, especially on a team that relies on its dragons quite a lot. Klefki really just doesn't do enough. It's not bulky enough, and no offensive pressure means that it kind of can't do its job very well. The rest of the team is alright. I never seem to use Mew very effectively. Either it dies against something that it wasn't really planned to bring, wasn't really brought for, or it just doesn't even hit the field. That's happened a couple of times now. So yeah, that's going to be the match for this week. Hopefully we can keep on this momentum. The past few games have all been really great games. So hopefully we can keep on this momentum and keep going. Yeah, Dragonite really putting in the work there, though. I was very pleased with that set. Thank you, Shadi. All that's left to be said is I've been Foofoo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.